Hi everyone, welcome to AG Triathlon. Today I have with me Kristen Warren, who finished third overall age grouper in Ironman 70.3 Hawaii. Hi Christine, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Very good, my pleasure. First of all, congratulations on your race. It was
Thank you.
quite a great performance. I guess you must be elated. So yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I recently moved to Tucson, Arizona. I was a classical musician for most of my life. I was an oboist and then got into triathlon after breaking my ankles in 2017 and was just kind of sitting around thinking that I wanted to move, use my body when I could walk again. I wasn't into athletics or really even exercising at all, which is really terrible. But yeah, it inspired me to start running and start using my body. And then I had swam as a kid, so wanted to keep running, but also wanted to get into swimming and just decided that I wanted to try something really hard and I'd learn how to ride a bike and it was off to triathlon. So yeah, I was doing it as a hobby for several years, but loving it. And then when COVID came, I was in a really tough position with my music career because COVID just killed everything. I was a freelance worker in LA and there was no work to be had. So I just, after about almost a year of just sitting around kind of waiting and trying to figure out what to do, I decided, you know what, I love triathlon. It's all I want to do. Even if music comes back, I had a great career, but I think that I want to just move on and do triathlon. So went and got certified and left music. And now I'm just doing triathlon and coaching.
Very cool. So, how do you get into triathlon? Like, how did you do it in any case? So, right, you want to take up running and swimming, and then you add the bike, and then you get into triathlon. But at what stage do you realize that you want to register for a race? Do you get a coach? How did the process look like?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I lived in an area that I had found a program that was free. It was called Give It a Try, and it was put on by a local bike shop there. And they let you rent the bike and the wetsuit for super cheap. And they had, I guess they were like classes every Saturday, and it was a free program. They were just trying to get people into the sport. And so I had to beg my husband. I was like, please let me do this program because he actually had done triathlon many years ago and knew how dangerous. We lived in Orange County, California at the time, and he really didn't want me riding a bike on the streets. And he was like, it's so dangerous. You're going to get hit by a car. And I was like, no, please, like, I'll join this program. Let me just, like, I really want to do this. And so they lead you through the program. You go every Saturday. And then at the end of the program, they do a sprint race. That's as a group. That's kind of like the end goal. And so, yeah, but I had done a couple running races and I loved it. Like I immediately was like hooked on the adrenaline on like the racing and like as a performer in music, I think it was just in my nature. I was like, oh, I love this like competition aspect of it. So yeah, I did the program. I did the little race and I loved it. Like I was hooked. That was it. That was the end. I went and told my husband, I was like, I want to get a coach. Like I really want to do this. And I really, it's something that I want to really give it a good go and give it a good effort. So that was pretty much it. I went and found my first coach, I guess a couple months later, a local coach.
Very cool. So here we are, five years later, and you're at the pointy end of the races.
Yeah.
So 70.3 in Hawaii. I think the interesting thing about that race is the only remaining 70.3 that gives you a Kona slot. Like, I mean, the World Championships, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
Very cool. So, yeah, let's talk a bit about the race. How was the taper leading into it?
Yeah, this was an interesting race for me because at the tail end of last year, I had a pretty bad injury. It was like a hamstring glute strain that just nagged and plagued me. And so a lot of things were different about the beginning of this year. I made a coaching change and, I worked with the coach and he said, I'm never going to tell you what races to do if I wanted to do something early season. He's like, if you would just wait and we would spend the time in the beginning part of the year, like in the gym, really getting balanced. Like, he's very knowledgeable about injuries as well. And so he was like, you really need to get in the gym and get yourself balanced and get strong. And if you will just spend these months getting really strong and doing like a bigger build, I think it will serve you really well. And I was like, oh man, I know he's right. But of course, everybody wants to just race. And so I waited, I worked from January up until June, up until this race, just working really hard, trying to get strong. And so I kind of went into this race not actually knowing where I was. I felt like I had this new fitness, and I was super excited to kind of see like where I was and if it would reflect from the training. So that being said, I had this great build, and then like 2 or 3 weeks before the race, I actually had this super weird weekend where it was like my legs just didn't work. Like, I couldn't hit the numbers on the bike, took a day off, couldn't hit the numbers on the run. And then I started to panic. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so close to this race, yet here I am, like, I'm falling apart. And it's like 3 weeks from the race, which we all know is not true. Like, these things just happen. But of course we get in our heads and, panic about it. So, it took me there was like a little blip that sort of set me off a little bit, but I got back on my path, and then I was like, all right, well, all the good work is already done. And, so taper week, taper weeks are weird. Who has like a good story about tapering? Who actually feels good? Not me ever. But, taper week was pretty good. I got there feeling really good, and then it sort of as the week went on, I was like, ugh, tapering, I don't feel so good. And I kind of like was cautious about the workouts, maybe just didn't like do all the stuff I was supposed to, just played it a little bit easy. But I got to race day feeling pretty confident and pretty jazzed about it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, indeed, taper weeks are weird, as you mentioned, right? I mean, it's like you feel something in your throat and you're like, okay, that's my race is gone. I'm going to die probably. So yeah, I think we can all relate to that. So how did the race go? Start off with the swim.
Yeah, it was great. Overall, I was really happy. Obviously everybody wants to go out and do well, and it feels good to place high, but at the same time, I had these mini goals that I really was trying to achieve. And I really just wanted to go out and have the race that I thought that I was capable of having. And that did happen for me. So that obviously, like, I was so excited that happened. The swim was beautiful. I was lucky. I had a friend there who's a very good former swimmer, and I knew she would be at the front. And so I lined up with her at the front. I'm a pretty good swimmer. So I was like, well, if I could just get on her feet and hang on, like, that'll be awesome. But no, she dropped me super quickly. But, so I luckily found another pair of feet, in my age group. And, usually that doesn't really happen. But I was lucky. I found a pretty good draft. The water was beautiful. We had seen turtles the days before when we were out swimming. I mean, it was just a beautiful swim. I don't know if there's a more beautiful swim out there for a 70.3. It's just calm and beautiful. There's coral and fish everywhere. So, that being said, I know a few people had problems earlier on with the sun and sighting the buoys maybe. We were lucky. We went off at 7:30, so it was a bit later in the day. So I think the sun was a bit higher. I also had the draft with the feet, so I wasn't maybe checking sighting as much as I normally would. So the swim was pretty uneventful for me. I wanted to swim around 30, and I think I came in with a 30 and change. So for me, that was a really solid swim. In Tucson, there's not a lot of open water. So when I was in California, I swam in the ocean all the time. So I was a little bit hesitant, like, oh, will I still be as good at swimming in the ocean as I used to be? But it all went pretty smoothly. So I always say the swim is, if it's uneventful, it's a good thing. So it was uneventful. And I was happy with it. So then I guess we're off to T1, which is super long run. Gosh, it's like, I think 400 or 500 yards maybe over there, meters. So slogging over to there, hoping that I'll find my bike. I found my bike, luckily. Hoping that I can still, I leave my shoes clipped in, hoping I can still get on my bike without falling. That's always like in the back of my mind. Will I trip and run into a barrier or something? But that didn't happen. So that was good. And then I've always considered myself am not a strong cyclist. Like notoriously, I'm better at the swim and the run, and I always get killed in the bike. And I think just coming into the sport, like I didn't start until I was 30. So I think, trying to catch up with a lot of these ladies in my age group that have been in the sport for longer and just have that power has always been a struggle for me. So I've been working really hard to get power on the bike. And so for the first time in this race, it was sort of my goal. Like I really wanted to go out and like perform on the bike. Like I've always felt disappointed in my bike a little bit. And I was like, I really want to go out and like not sell myself short on this course. And I know the competition in my age group behind me is coming too. And I was like, I need to stay on it. And I need to trust that my legs are going to be there when I get off the bike, and trust my training, and trust that like they're still going to work and I'm still going to be able to run, even if I really lay it down on the bike. So that was like sort of, I guess, the underlying goal of me for this race was to get down and feel like, okay, I'm proud of that bike. I felt like I biked to my expectation, my coach's expectation. And like that happened. I felt like all the work had paid off. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was dying on the bike to keep up. I actually felt like I was holding my own. So that was a good feeling.
Yeah. So you decide to push hard on the bike, right? To not let yourself down. But how do you make sure that you don't over push?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I think it's a twofold answer. Obviously, like we went out with, my coach gave me a power plan based on the work that I'd been doing. And we sort of decided on a number that we thought was aggressive, but that I should be able to hold on to. Obviously, like I'm a big proponent of heart rate. So watching heart rate and making sure I'm not, through the roof. But if it's low and I'm feeling comfortable and strong, like, okay, let's really make sure that we push up to that power goal. So that's one thing. This is sort of, I don't know if this is a good answer, but I feel like too, you have to have gone too far at some point to know what's too far. Mm. And so like trying to get to that point and like really trying to know my body and having gone too far in training and knowing like, okay, that definitely was too hard. And I will say that there was a moment and towards the end that I definitely started thinking like, ooh, is it, either this is really going to pay off and be great, or maybe I overdid it a little bit because it was the most aggressive I've been on the bike. So I wouldn't say that I was like, I didn't have that moment of doubt that maybe I was overdoing it a little bit, but I think mostly sticking to that. I also look at normalized power. So looking at like your average lap power, but also normalized power, because those two, depending on the course, can be a bit off. So I'd say looking at the power profile and heart rate and just sort of like keeping an own personal tab on my body were the ways that I did it.
So how much did the competition come into play there, like seeing other ladies on the course? Is that also a factor that you took into account here, or?
Absolutely. I think you even had Carolyn on the program. She is in my age group, and so I knew I had seen her and I knew that I was in front of her. So obviously I know she's a very strong cyclist. So I was just waiting on that bike course. I was like, all right, she's going to catch me eventually. Am I going to be able to hang on? When is it going to happen? And yeah, what's going to happen at the run? So it's definitely a factor. And kept me definitely on. There's a lot of it's rolly. There's a lot of downhill. We had some weather up at Javi as well that made the road slick. And I was like, all right, well, by the turnaround, she hadn't passed me. And I was like, I know she's back there and I know she's coming. I know she's got to be closing in on me. I didn't see her after the turnaround, but so it definitely was in the back of my mind that I needed to just not let up, not coast the downhills, just stay on the power because the competition was coming. So for me, it definitely is a factor.
Awesome. And how long did you manage to keep her away? It was in the 40s. It was definitely like 44, 45 maybe. By the time she did finally catch me, and then I was going up a hill. I was like, all right, well, we're close to the end. Like I'm going to keep her in my sights. And then I dropped my chain. So then she was gone. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to try to do my best. Yeah. Awesome. So then into T2, how are the legs feeling after hard biking?
Pretty good. The run was a bit odd for me. Like I said, I always have a bit more confidence in my run than I usually am like, well, I can't wait to get off the bike and run because that's a bit of a stronger suit for me. So got off the bike, couldn't find my bike rack. That was fun. Like the numbers, I must have had race brain. And I was like, I was standing right at it. And I was like, where's my bike rack? And so I pick my bike up. They have in Hawaii, they have the lower ones, like where you put your wheel in it. And so I jump over and I'm looking at the other rack and I was like, no, that rack was correct. So I jump back over with my bike and I was like, oh my God, like cussing, like, where is my bleeping number? I almost put my bike into somebody else's spot because I was like, I can't waste any more time. But then I was like, no, I can't do that. So I did finally, I was like, calm down and find your spot. So did that. Wasted a good 30 seconds probably doing that. But headed off onto the run. Legs actually felt okay. So I was happy about that. Kind of, yeah, you just spend those first moments kind of like taking a tally, taking an evaluation of like, okay, what hurts? What does your stomach feel okay? Like the mental run through of how you're feeling. And the legs actually did feel okay. It was getting hot at that point. I knew I was hot. Like I was starting to get tired and I thought it was because I was hot more than anything. So I started with the ice immediately. I started out and, kind of, again, like my coach and I had decided like, okay, this is like this range. If you're feeling good, let's be aggressive. Like 7:30 was, knowing the course and the heat and everything. Like we thought, okay, 7:30 is probably like an aggressive pace, but like if you're feeling good, you can hold that. So I'm going out at 7:30, like thinking, okay, well, this isn't too bad. Then you start getting in the hills, and then it starts coming down, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not gonna work. So I had to like mentally, okay, let's bump it down a little bit. Okay, can we hold 7:40, 7:45? Then it became, and so then task mastering every run is like, okay, get into like, how much can you get in at each aid station for me? Because I also in this lead up to the race have really been working on the nutrition side of things, figuring out my own sweat rates and figuring out my sweat sodium content, which I'm a ridiculously salty sweater. It's like 1,300 milligrams per hour or per like liter of sweat, which is, I feel like for a little person, that's insane. But I've done 2 tests now. And so the other kind of mini goal was trying not to get dehydrated, because I know in my last several hot races, I've been extremely dehydrated. And so that was kind of the goal, getting in a lot more sodium than normal. I think I was close to, like 1,500 per hour. Is that right? Yeah. So some 1,500 per hour on the run, which is a lot more, but then having the fluid to support it. So not getting the GI upset. So those were the 2 big goals. So I was taking in a lot more fluid and a lot more sodium on the run, and it worked. I think it really helped. So first lap of the run, I remember thinking, like, this is the first time I've thought this in a while, but I remember thinking, how am I going to get through this? Like, how actually am I going to get through this? How am I at like a respectable pace that I like, because the time kept slipping and I was like, oh man, like it was brutal. I was like, how I have to just keep going. I was like, I have to stop thinking about this because I have 2 more laps and I literally don't know how I'm going to make it. So it just became like, I stopped looking at my watch really a lot, except to like check in. And I just like focused on getting from each aid station to each aid station. And I had the alert set on my watch. So like, okay, just wait until you need to do this, like focusing on things besides actually running. Like, man, that was a tough run.
The course is brutal, right? I saw like golf course and off-road and whatnot, right? Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very rolly, and the grass is pretty. It's soft, so there's a lot of like give under the feet. There's some like you're coming down hills and making turns, and your feet are, you're dumping water on yourself, so your feet are already like sloshy. Right. And then there's some very steep. There's 1 or 2 very steep climbs, and then you go onto this asphalt where the wind is blowing, and you feel like you're in a volcano just because that blacktop radiates the heat, and the wind is blowing, and there's a lot going on mentally during that run. So I kind of settled around 750 pace, and I was like, okay, I can't go any slower. I was like, I just have to hold on and do like whatever I could to hang on to that pace. So like tons of ice. I think I walked a few aid stations just to make sure I was getting in the fluid, because I knew if I got dehydrated, that was going to slow me down too. So I saw Carolyn. I knew I couldn't catch her. Like she's so strong. She was too fast. So I was like, all right. By the third lap, I had some friends out on course telling me, they said, you're in fourth overall. And I was like, whoa, that was actually a huge shock to me. Like I went into this race, like if I get in the top 10, I will be happy. Like if I'm in the top 5 in my age group, I will be happy. Like had lower expectations. I guess that's terrible. But I was like, fourth? What? Like that sort of like gave me a little pick me up. And they said, you're 30 seconds from third place and you're moving faster than her. They said, but you're also getting run down by the girl behind you who was moving a minute per mile faster than me. And at first my husband told me that and I thought he was lying. I was like, who's running 6:50 minute miles? I was like, no way. So I thought he was lying to me to tell me to like try to get me, because sometimes he'll lie and say that somebody's closer to make me go faster. And I was like, but if he's not lying, like I'm in trouble. Like I really gotta pick it up. And so I kept moving, saw them again, and they're like, you're like 3 seconds at the 11 mile mark. Somebody was like, you're 3 seconds from third. And I was like, all right, like whatever I have left in these legs, like I have just got to find it. I looked at I did hit like 7:30 for the last 2 miles, I think. And it was so miserable. I was like, I cannot wait to get to this finish line. I was like, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if I'd made it to third overall. I didn't know if the girl had passed me, but I was like, I just have to like run as hard as I can for the next 2 miles. I was like, it's less than a 5K. Like I can do this. Like I would just, whatever I've got, I will get to this finish line. And yeah, I don't know what the time gap was at the end, but I ended up making it to third overall, which was awesome. And like, so mind blown. It was like way above what I expected. And I think the final finish time was a 5:01. So I just missed, actually, usually I will check in on the watch and see where I am overall. And it never even occurred to me. I had no idea. Like I didn't even think about it. I was like, I just got to get through this run. So I mean, all in all, it was, the best thing about it was just performing to what I felt I was capable of, hitting the goals, like, riding up to the expectations, having the nutrition pay off, which is something I'd really been working on. So placing is great. But overall, I was thrilled to have worked so hard and, been waiting for this race and just to go out and be able to perform. So that's the best.
Amazing. Massive congratulations. And therefore you're also qualified for Kona, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, it'll be my second. I've only done one full, so I got to get to work.
What does the rest of the season look like, therefore, in the lead up to Kona?
Yeah. So I'm doing Boulder 70.3 in August here in a couple weeks. I'm a little bit undecided about this. I might go out and do the PTO US Open race in September. And then, things have changed a little bit. I was supposed to do Chattanooga full, but that's the end of September, and I cannot do that anymore because of Kona. So, then I'll be doing Kona. I'm also qualified for 70.3 Worlds in St. George. So assuming I can recover, I think there's 3 weeks between those two. I will probably go and do that with just like not high expectations, just kind of go and have fun. I had a bad race there last year, so I feel like I need to at least go and redeem myself a little bit. So maybe do that, and maybe something in November, but I'm not sure about that yet.
Awesome. Yeah, so good luck with the rest of the season. Before we wrap up this interview, what I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned that you changed coaches, I guess, at the end of the season last year. I actually changed coaches as well personally a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to ask you for basically what was the sign for you, or when did you know that it was time for a change? Yeah,
this is a really important thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough, actually, because coaching it's such a personal relationship. And so I think I just had learned about myself throughout the year, and I learned what I needed. And I wasn't getting what I needed. And I don't think that was his fault necessarily. I just think that he wasn't capable of it was really just time and energy. Like, he's a very busy guy. He's very he has pro athletes that he's very invested in, and I wanted more. Like, I'm a pretty detailed person, and I want to understand my training. I want to learn about it. And as a coach now, like, I want like to have a good like a just more time to talk about these things and understand what I'm doing, and I wasn't going to get that. And so I just made the decision, like, I knew for me personally, that was something that I needed. And so, it was nothing. It was just, I think a lot of people will just put up with not asking for what they need, or put up with something that is not suiting them best, and to their own detriment. And so I just said, like, I'm not going to thrive with this coach. I'm not going to be my best because I'm not getting what I needed. And so I made the decision. It sucks because you do invest a lot of time, and you obviously, the longer you work with the coach, like, the relationship builds and they get to know you. And there's a lot to be said about that. So of course I really didn't want to make a change, but I knew that to be my best, I had to. So
yeah, it's really complicated, right? I mean,
it is.
Personally, I was sitting like 2 days on the message. Like, how do I want to, like, I was really, the coach becomes a friend, and it's like really hard. Yeah. It's like a breakup almost, right?
It is.
Yeah. But what you were saying, right? It's like, you want to understand the process because you have to trust the process. And how can you trust the process if you don't understand it, right? So I totally get what you're saying. Yeah. And interestingly enough, it's also, you have to know when results are just natural versus when you're stagnating as an athlete, right? It can happen that you have a bad race or a couple of bad races, but at some point you also have to feel that, you need a new method or a new approach, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, for me, there were a couple, like, I did end up getting I did end up overtraining and getting injured. And at the time, like, when I was in it, I didn't see it. And then when I was getting past it, I was like, this was not handled correctly. And so I think a lot of times as athletes too, we like make excuses for whatever it is, or and don't see the warning signs or red flags, and we justify it as being okay when it's not okay and it needs to be addressed. So that was another thing. I was like, all right, and back to the time thing, just because there wasn't enough time on his end, that it just got kind of swept aside.
Yeah. And maybe just one last question, as you're also a coach. What has coaching given you personally as an athlete on your end? Yeah,
it's been, oh my gosh, just even more gratifying than I imagined. Like, I was excited to get into it initially, and but man, I had the opportunity to go out to Oceanside earlier in the year, and I had 4 athletes racing, and 2 of them, it was their first 70. It gives me chills thinking about it, because it's so cool because I know, like, how profoundly this sport has changed my life, and, like, what I've achieved and who I've become through this sport. And I'm just like, if I can help even somebody else get like an inkling of that, and helping somebody get to a race that they think is so impossible, and watching them go through the process and like being there for them. Oh my gosh, it's better than racing. Like, I could, I'm just excited it makes me want to be better, a better coach and a better athlete, so that I can, help people better. And it's
inspired.
It's so inspiring. It's so inspiring. And yeah, like, and I've like that connection we were talking about with the coach, like, I have these like such cool connections with each of the athletes, and each person's different, and it's fun to like get to know them and their personalities, and like, how can I help them best? And it's like, not everybody's the same. So figuring out like what everybody needs to achieve these things, but it's really cool to be a part of helping somebody experience that.
Awesome. So on that note, Christine, thanks a lot for joining. Massive congrats again for your performance at Hawaii 70.3. And wishing you all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Talk to you later.
Great. Thanks.
Bye-bye.